Hey, hey. Gunshots.
Huh?
Gunshot wounds.
Second body.
And we found a second body too.
Yeah, I'm gonna get photos of her hands, chest. I'm gonna pull her shirt up, everything. I'm gonna get as much of her as I can see.
What began as a simple welfare check for an elderly couple quickly took a terrifying turn, leaving the community in shock as the truth revealed itself to be far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined.
That's when I heard noises and I looked at Johnny, my nephew, at the chair and go, "There'll be a fight."
Okay.
You know, that guy's pretty strong. He's kind of a vicious.
But as every clue pointed toward one main suspect, Susan Sorensen, she was left horrified after learning about her boyfriend's evil and darkest secret.
He said that I needed to come outside and pay my debt. And I said, what? What are you talking about? He said, I told you what I would do to you if you were ever to leave me again, and you did.
On July 1st, 2017, after a 911 call was made by some people to request a welfare check on an elderly couple in their neighborhood, the Arizona police arrived at the house, not knowing that what awaited them beyond that door would hold a web of mysteries.
Sheriff's office.
The house was locked from the inside, so the police started looking for a window to peek through, hoping to see someone inside. But soon, things took a terrible turn.
Yeah.
That one's the one. Okay. Sheriff's office.
Hey, hey. Gunshots.
Huh?
Gunshot wounds. Gunshot.
Film that. Get a close up on it. Put it on the radio if possible.
Alright, copy. Notify badge 30.
Take a look.
Thank you to myself.
To their shock, they saw a person lying on the floor, visibly wounded by gunshots. Realizing the urgency, they quickly broke down the door to get inside. But once they stepped in, it became clear that the nightmare was far from over.
Bad. What we're doing.
32, 330, myself and 34 will be kicking down the door, clearing the house. 32 to 30, he can hold traffic.
Second body. Second body.
And we found a second body too.
Stiff. Rigor mortis.
Not just one, but two people were found dead, with their bodies completely covered in blood. Both had the same gunshot wounds, making the scene even more alarming. What puzzled the police even more was that the house had been locked from the inside. Could the killer still be hiding somewhere, waiting for his next victim? With their guns drawn, the investigators moved cautiously through the house, checking every corner, prepared for a possible confrontation.
Sheriff's office.
Sheriff's office! No, I got you. Get it back.
330, all in there, 9. 330, all in the unit, full on non-priority traffic. Service is code 4.
That's all over.
Code 4? Clear.
After clearing the house and finding no further danger, the officers lowered their weapons. With the immediate threat ruled out, they called in Sergeant Nota and Roscoe Herrera to take over the investigation.
Everybody here is ready to get her.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna get photos of her hands, chest. I'm gonna pull her shirt up, everything. I'm gonna get as much of her as I can see. If you've got type injuries, things like that.
It's cool, man. We're good.
We're good.
So, what I'll have you do is hold up her right hand. This one. She's. Alright, let's try and lift that shirt up if we can. Go for it.
But who were these victims? After carefully searching the house and examining the identification they found, the police were able to confirm that the victims were 75-year-old Martha Sorensen and 81-year-old Robert Sorensen.
Robert and Martha, they were my grandparents. If I describe my grandfather, Robert, I'd just say very simple. He lived a simple life. My grandma Martha, she was very, very laid back. She used to like to read a lot of books. That was her thing. And she had a weird obsession with tie-dye. She looked almost like a highlighter on some days. I mean, obviously I figured they had no enemies. I thought it must have been a mistake or something. Something must have happened that caused the tragedy like that.
Though it was a difficult time for the family, the police were determined to get them closure. They carefully searched the house, looking for any clue that could lead them to the killer. That's when they noticed something strange. Shell casings from a .22 long rifle were scattered on the bed and the floor. These casings confirmed that that was the weapon used to shoot the elderly couple.
This is not a gun designed for self-defense, mainly used by kids hunting rabbits. This is not something you would use on another human being normally.
But the shell casings alone weren't enough. They needed more substantial evidence to track down the person responsible for the couple's murder. The house was in a rural area with no CCTV cameras nearby that could have captured anything suspicious or revealed the attacker's identity. With no footage to rely on, the police turned to the neighbors, hoping to gather information from anyone who might have seen or heard something unusual. And to their surprise, the neighbors had a lot to share.
Oh, how's it going?
You're going this way. Come on in.
Okay. I was bouncing in the back and
Come on in.
yeah, Travis and Brian are next door talking with the family.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we heard a loud noise, a car going down the street
Okay.
at 10 o'clock roughly.
About 10.
10:15 to be
The
exact.
vehicle, you know, I know it's just a dark vehicle. Was it a sedan? I'm sure.
I couldn't even tell you what it was.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't even focusing on it.
Yeah.
All I saw was a car going in. And I never thought it was what really happened was happening. I just thought Susan pulled up and they were arguing. I mean, because that's what they always do.
According to the neighbor, he'd seen the elderly couple arguing with a man outside their house. However, he couldn't understand what they were arguing about. A little while later, he and the others in the neighborhood had heard loud sounds. At first, they thought it was just firecrackers, but later they realized it was actually the sound of gunshots being fired.
So they pull up. They go into the whole parking lot, or the whole.
No, straight down the little
Or
hill.
just straight down.
It
And
looks
just
like
park.
the headlights still pointing at the door.
Okay.
And that's when I heard noises, and I looked at Johnny, my nephew, at the chair, and go, "There'll be a fight."
Okay.
And that's about it. I went sound. And that's really about all I did.
Even after getting a detailed account of what happened before the incident, the police still didn't get the breakthrough they needed. The neighbor's statement and the sighting of an unknown vehicle were helpful, but not enough to move the case forward. Determined to find more clues, they continued questioning other people in the area about whether someone had witnessed something that could finally lead them in the right direction.
No, we were just right when we were knocking that he remembers a vehicle pulls up between 22 and 22:15. It would have been a fast time.
Fast time?
Yeah,
I'll
allow.
give you the exact hours.
Yeah. The vehicle comes, high rate of speed, comes in, pulls into the front, and it's still parked by the front door. Headlights are still on the front door.
Me and Tom had something schemed up for you.
Somebody, do you remember who comes out?
I didn't see
Anybody. But all they knew there was they went through the front door.
Hey, it was right about. Here's where we're sitting. I get off work about 10. A couple minutes later, a car come down the street. My truck's parked right there, still hooked up to the ice cream machine. So I heard the car, and I heard loud noises. So I walked up to my truck without being seen. I'm eavesdropping. Because Susan and Bob, they always fight. You guys know that. Yeah. Loud noises, and I told my nephew Johnny, who was sitting there, he goes, "Hey, gonna be a fight." And I just came and sat back down.
Disappointment after disappointment was what they were facing until one neighbor turned out to be the key to the case. He told the officers that he'd seen the victim's daughter, Susan Sorensen, near the house around the same time the shooting happened.
So she came over?
Yeah, she came over.
Where were you at? Were you in the bedroom?
I was sleeping.
Or sleeping?
Yeah, I was sleeping and doorbell rang. I got up and she came over. She was hysterical. She was crying. So with her son. With no hesitation, I just threw the clothes on and jumped in the truck and was up.
Okay, and about what time was that she came over? Do you remember? About roughly?
I really don't.
Was it still daylight?
It was still daylight.
Did she say anything?
Well, she didn't say anything. She just said, "Can you guys get out here? Can you just take us somewhere? Take me somewhere." So I did. That was it. And she was complaining about her and her boyfriend.
You know who her boyfriend is?
Never met him.
Okay.
So.
Although the neighbors couldn't provide any specific details, the police now had their first real lead. They began searching for Susan and soon discovered that she'd been living in a trailer in the Sanders area. But when they arrived to talk with her regarding her parents' murder, she wasn't present. To move forward with their investigation, they first spoke to the property owner to get permission to enter Susan's trailer.
How's it going?
Hello. Come on in.
Okay. No, I'm just here. About that big trailer in the back.
Yeah, belongs to Susan.
Oh, to Susan.
They had to get out of there, and they transferred all their stuff to that trailer there.
Uh huh.
So I don't know what's in there. I really don't.
Oh, it's actually open.
It's been open.
Oh, it's been open.
Sometimes the wind blows open and I come over here and that good stuff here.
Just storage, John. Looks like what you're using it for.
It wasn't just Susan who was living in the trailer. Her boyfriend, Gary B. Wilkins, was also staying there with her, and they had been using the place for storage. While some officers searched the trailer for any possible evidence, others went around the neighborhood, knocking on doors and asking people if they'd noticed any suspicious activity around the time of the murders.
Hello.
The first thing they learned was that Susan's boyfriend had gone to the elderly couple's house later that night, which seemed odd because there was no clear reason for him to visit them.
He come over here.
That, when you mean...
Gary come over here.
Okay.
And
when was that? When did he come over?
Friday night.
Friday night?
Yeah. Come over here Friday night.
About what time was that?
He was already in bed. It was 9:30. He comes over here a lot. But funny thing was his headlights were pointing that way instead of pointing that way. Because he would have said, I'm having alternator problems.
Alternator problems?
That's what he said, you know. You can sit down.
Okay.
Gary arrived from the opposite direction that he usually did, which immediately caught the neighbors' attention. But what he revealed next was even more important, which started connecting all the dots in the case.
What was he driving?
A black Durango.
Okay.
Susan was the one who bought it for him. See which way he left? He went that way. That way? Yeah. He says, oh, I was having problems with my headlights. He says, but it's okay now. It's okay. But then he left.
By now, the police were even more curious about Gary's behavior. When they asked the neighbor about him, he revealed the alarming news that Gary had extreme violent tendencies, and his behavior was far from normal.
You know, that guy's pretty strong. He's kind of a vicious person.
What was even more shocking was that Gary didn't just have a history of violence with his girlfriend Susan. He'd also been aggressive toward the victims, Robert and Martha. This chilling discovery changed everything, and in no time, Gary became their prime suspect in the double homicide.
This is why I hear from Susan. She told Robert hide in the closet.
When she was at their house?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what Susan told you? Did she say why he wanted her to... Why she wanted him to hide in the closet?
Because of Gary.
Just as the police set out to find Gary, they received an unexpected update. Susan had finally reached out and wanted to talk.
Hello, Susan.
Hi.
Hey, this is Tony with the sheriff's office. Susan, where are you at right now?
I'm in Winslow.
We need to sit down and talk with you.
Okay.
Give us 30 minutes. We'll see you in about 30 minutes.
All right.
Okay, Susan, we'll see you then.
After approximately 1.5 hours drive from Winslow, Susan arrived at the Apache County Sheriff's Office. As soon as she sat down with the detectives for questioning, Gary became the sole focus of their discussion. Upon the revelation of the horrific details of her parents' murder, Susan grew fearful of Gary's possible involvement in the crime. Despite his violent nature, her parents had always loved Gary, and there seemed no serious reason for him to harm them, let alone murder them.
My parents loved Gary. My parents did love Gary. My mom, she didn't like the violence or the abusiveness, and neither did my dad, but they both liked him. They both loved him. My mom had just gone and pawned a bracelets to buy that damn Durango. for him.
Even though it seemed that Susan tried to defend Gary's involvement in the couple's murder, what she would reveal next would confirm the detective's suspicion of Gary.
During the course of the interview with Susan, she indicated that she told Gary that she wanted to break off the relationship with him. And what I established from Susan was that Gary was very possessive.
The fact that Gary's behavior became aggressive after hearing the news of their separation was not only concerning, but also revealed his true violent nature, suggesting that he was capable of anything in a fit of rage. Moreover, confessions made by the neighbors previously also indicated his erratic and unpredictable actions.
Gary was on a warpath because I left.
When Gary called you, did he make a direct threat?
He said that I needed to come outside and pay my debt. And I said, what? What are you talking about? He said, I told you what I would do to you if you were ever to leave me again, and you did.
This was a chilling revelation. From what Susan had shared about Gary, it was evident that the threats were not mere empty words. They were the actual warnings given to her regarding her decision to leave him. This suggested that he'd already planned something sinister.
What did he say specifically besides you need to pay your debt?
No, that was it, because in times past, and he, you know, he told me that if I were to ever, you know, leave his side, that, you know, that in an meeting, you know, that would be in you know, or worse. And so, you know, when he said debt, he didn't have to say anything because that's what he you know, it was a debt. I always told you what I would do to you if you were to leave. And, you know.
So his debt, what he means is by him physically hurting you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Susan was trapped in an excessively possessive and toxic relationship and was in dire need to escape it. But what she'd not known was the uncertain consequences that come with such decisions. In this case, the repercussions were far more horrifying than her darkest nightmare.
My dad said, he said, I'm proud of the decision you're making and I love you.
Before they could part ways and move on with their lives, Susan and Gary decided to meet each other one last time. However, neither of them, nor Susan's parents, knew that this meeting would instead set the stage for another tragic event.
We found out that night of the incident or anything that her and Gary were drinking together. Sometime during the night, I guess decided to separate, and Susan did leave to her aunt's house in Winslow, where she spent the night.
After meeting Gary, Susan reportedly called it a day, saw her parents off, and left for her aunt's house to stay overnight. What seemed like an ordinary goodbye would soon turn into something terrible.
Yeah, I really didn't get much sleep that night, but because I kept hearing stuff. So that next morning, I woke up and I tried to call my mom, and I didn't get an answer. And you know, let not even a couple hours go by, but I tried calling her again, and I didn't get an answer. I talked to my dad again.
Already devastated by the news of her parents' death, Susan tried to help the detectives track down Gary's whereabouts. From what he told them, Gary had been living in a horse trailer at another residence. This information quickly made the detectives start a search for his trailer. Meanwhile, Susan was dismissed from the scene.
How you doing, sir? I'm doing good. I'm Deputy Shard of Patch County Sheriff's Office, probably met before. We're here to attempt to locate a horse trailer that belongs to the Susan family.
We didn't want to give Gary the impression that we were looking for him as a person of interest in this homicide.
Well, that's the only reason we're here, just to locate that trailer and see if, just to come pick it up. But,
that's the only horse trailer I know of around here.
Okay.
I'm just rebuilding that one.
Gotcha. Well, I don't see it. I don't see it. Go. So we'll just go over there and check it out, okay?
Okay. Thanks, sir. Yeah.
All right.
Y'all have a good afternoon.
You too. Likewise.
After reaching the concerned location, detectives found 2 horse trailers that could possibly belong to Gary.
Let's go back to the main road and head that way. 32, 330. Keep copying Arizona 1028 trailer.
Thank you.
permit registration on a 1989 two-horse trailer.
So yeah, it's not that one. We're gonna have to check another residence then.
Further down. Go up here. Back down here to where Scott Road is. 66. Go all the way down there. And the intersection is. Take left. They got the gates locked. Thank you.
Right next to the property and show us all code for it.
After hours of searching, detectives found his address at Wilkins' property on Route 66. At that time, Gary had been living in his father's compound, which had several other trailers.
I am leading the DPS SWAT team into the suspect's dad's compound.
Yeah, residents here are going to see police. We have a valid search warrant for the property. Huh? Well, he usually don't stay here.
We get to the compound. There's multiple residents, multiple trailers in the area.
Yes, good. I'll say the same. I've seen since night before.
Gary had not been seen by anyone since the night of the murder, leading detectives to suspect that he might be on the run. However, before drawing any conclusions, the detectives needed to reach his trailer to collect more evidence.
Let's
go.
Information we got was that Gary may have been there, and at that point, finding Gary, it's becoming a needle in the haystack to where we don't know where he's at this point.
Clear. Move. Yeah. Clear.
Searching each trailer one by one made locating Gary even more challenging. While searching the property, they were lucky enough to have a warrant to track Gary's phone, which made locating him easier. Soon, they found his trailer.
Sheriff's office. Gary, if you're in here, let me see your hands.
Once it was established where Gary's trailer was at, entry was made into the trailer.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, he has it with him. Well, if he has it with him, how's it paying him?
Although Gary couldn't be found at the location, his cell phone charger was still plugged into the socket, indicating that he'd not gone far from his trailer. Additionally, his last known location was traced to his trailer, confirming their suspicion that Gary was present at the scene and had left just moments before the police arrived.
One of the biggest concerns was that, because Gary was not located on the compound, that he was tipped off and slipped through our fingers.
As they continued searching for Gary, the officers needed more information about his next moves. They discovered that one of his brothers was living in the same compound, and he informed them about their sister, who lived in Winslow, who Gary had been visiting occasionally.
If I had to guess last I knew, he was headed to Winslow. But
What's in Winslow? Girlfriend?
my sister
Sister?
lives over there, yeah. And kinfolk live in Quick Creek with drugs. And he acted like he was kind of on something. So,
Okay. Where's your kinfolk live in Queen Creek?
that I don't know. I used to know, but it's changed up so much. They told me I wouldn't even realize Quick Creek.
It's changed a lot. Okay. Sorry for bothering you.
In an effort to find Gary, officers from the Apache County Sheriff's Office contacted the local police in Winslow to help locate his sister. The very next day, they reached her house to gather Gary's whereabouts.
Hi. My name is Oscar Herrera. I'm a commander with the Apache County Sheriff's Office.
Good to meet you.
Do you have a few minutes to
I do.
speak?
Do you want to come in?
Sure, if that's possible.
We were told that Gary had actually been to his sister's home the day prior.
about 6:30, he was pounding on my front door and ringing the doorbell, and I sleep upstairs, so I don't hear nothing that happens down here. So my son got up thinking that one of our cars got hit out here. So he come to the door and he flung it open, and there's my brother Gary standing there.
He was here yesterday?
Yesterday morning about 6:30. He's in a Dodge Durango. I just don't know what to think. But anyway, so my brother said, man, I need some money. You got any money? And I need to get to Mexico.
From what the detective had learned from Gary's sister, he'd been on the run in the same Dodge Durango that Susan's mother, Martha, had gifted to him. But what worried detectives more was that Gary might be trying to cross the Mexico border. This was an alarming situation. If Gary somehow managed to cross the border, locating him would be more difficult for the detectives.
Where do you think he would go?
Well, I've been thinking about this. We have a cousin that lives in Apache Junction. He may try to contact her. I'm trying to get into his head. So I'm thinking our mom is buried in Rollins, Wyoming. So I thought if he is on the run, he would probably go to the cemetery to go make his peace with our mom.
The Dodge Durango that Gary was in, we put an attempt to locate out, throughout the state. Also with the U.S. and Border Customs down in Mexico, see if he was en route to Mexico or has crossed the border.
Later, the Arizona Highway Patrol alerted the police about an abandoned vehicle 20 miles near Payson, Arizona, heading southbound toward Mexico. Officers quickly arrived at the scene to verify if the car was linked to Gary. Surprisingly, what they found inside was more shocking than anticipated.
I'll start the photos real quick, and after that we'll move up a little bit more. Passenger side door was already open or unsecured.
After running the vehicle information,
Local department won't open.
it was discovered that the vehicle that was disabled on the side of the road was connected to Gary.
Here you go. Going to use the time 13:30. Yeah, 13:30 is fine. First one's going to be a 22 round.
The car was thoroughly searched, and one of the major clues found in the car was the .22 caliber shell casings, the same ammunition used in Martha and Robert's killing. This was the first physical evidence officers had collected around Gary. The next physical evidence was right outside the vehicle, which would directly lead them to Gary.
Yeah.
We looked around the area, looked up on a small berm off to the right, and in the dirt area, the portion of the shoulder area, there are shoe tracks that appear to be heading in a south direction, continuing towards Phoenix.
Yeah, I can't really tell if they're going this way.
Once we establish that somebody on the run may be on foot, then we have to consider the outlying areas. Is there a residence that he may get to? Is there a store that he may get into, or maybe possibly catch a ride? So there's a whole lot of variables that we have to consider when somebody's on foot.
The detectives followed the footprints imprinted on the dry land, which ended up at a local department store.
Mr. Gary Wilkins, I guess his last name is. He came into the store right maybe 25 minutes before I got up. It was at 5:35, asking to charge his phone. So I took his phone from him and I charged it and I put it on the side of the microwave. And then I left him alone and he just stood there and said that his vehicle would give him problems when he got home to Susan. So I didn't bother him from then on. I just did my thing that I was supposed to do.
It appears that Gary is running out of options as far as becoming desperate and trying to get out of the area as quick as possible.
Later on, my relief came in. He came in and told the gentleman that was relieving me, "Thank you for charging my phone." That's when I noticed that he walked to review it. I was like with the 10 cartridge Windows 4 door. Got in it. At that time, I proceeded to go out to the dumpster, drop off my trash, came back, driving off.
I was pretty confident at that time that Gary was hitchhiking away from the vehicle and possibly making his way down to Phoenix.
And did he buy anything when he was in here? Nothing at all? Okay.
After getting leads from the woman at the local store, police began their search nearby. But none of their search made a successful attempt to find Gary. But just after a few days, officers at Apache County Sheriff received a call from the Mesa Police Department that changed the entire course of the investigation.
I was notified that there was a man that was apprehended in Mesa. It wasn't clearly established who the individual was, but there was strong suspicion that it was Gary Wilkins.
Once the detectives confirmed Gary's identity, they drove to Mesa to interview him. Gary, who was already in custody of the Mesa police, sat across the room during the interview.
Water. I want coffee, but I want it.
Yeah, I got water for you. Does that work? I saw you were from Wyoming.
No, sir, I'm from Arizona originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was born right here.
Oh, did you spend time in Wyoming
I
then?
did time in
When asking Gary about Wyoming, that touched something in him, that he became a little defensive, a little bit more abrasive.
What'd you do up there?
Okay, now.
No, like
we're going to play this game. You're going to go with rhetorical. Let's go like this. I'm going to insert my right card. I'm not set up. Okay. Because what I did in Wyoming has nothing to do with what I did here.
Okay.
Okay. I did time in Wyoming. I finished that time and got out.
While the officers tried to uncover the truth behind the couple's murder, Gary's arrogance was clearly visible. But the officers' main concern was to make him confess to the murder. At this point, they were willing to give him whatever he asked for.
Gary starts to say that, hey, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. So he's trying to misdirect why we're really there.
My mental capacity right now is under duress. Okay? So I'm trying to put all this together where we're going. You know what I'm saying? And I can't go. My brain, I wanted to sit down and go to sleep right now. That's what I want to do.
I'm gonna take a break because our medical guy, he's like, hey, this guy's hungry. We got to get him food.
We got him something to eat, gave him some fluids. We reestablished contact again and asked if he was good to go. And we proceeded to continue on with speaking with Gary.
After negotiating with Gary, they finally started asking him about his whereabouts on the night of the murder. But making Gary confess something was a struggle.
Last Friday in the morning, where were you at then? Do you remember?
Last Friday in the morning.
You don't remember?
Then he finally indicated that he remembered going to Sorensen's home.
Gary's admission to seeing Susan's parents was halfway to confession about the murder. Detectives just had to put the final nail in the coffin. But before they could make him confess the murder, Gary had another story to tell.
I went to Susan's mom and dad's house. We talked to them about Susan. Got into an argument with him.
What day was that? Thursday?
Thursday, I think it was. I was in an argument with him over that. He pulled out a gun, shot at me.
Okay.
And we wrestled over the gun. It went off 2 or 3 times. Bullets everywhere, so I just closed the door and looked off, took off out of there. Went back to the house and grabbed whatever we could, to the Durango, came down here, and I texted Susan, but her phone wasn't working. I said, well, when your mom and dad settle down and we can work this out, and let me know.
Okay. So he shot at you?
Yeah, her dad did.
And what'd you do?
Just wrestled, tried to get away from him. He got another gun shot at me. Just threw the other one out. So took one of them back to my brother's house, I think.
Took one of the guns back to your brother's house? What gun was that?
I don't know.
I'm like, holy, you got shot at. I've been shot at. That's some serious.
Yeah.
That ain't cool.
Yeah.
After reaching Martha and Robert's house, Gary argued with the couple over their daughter Susan's decision. It was then things escalated, and Gary and the couple got into a fight. But what Gary would confess next would stun the officers.
I figured,
So you guys wrestled? Was it just this?
Oh, it was all over, man. Everybody got knocked down. Martha got knocked down. You got knocked down. I got knocked down.
I bounced out the door. I slammed it behind me so she couldn't shoot at me no more. And if anybody got hurt, then it was an accident, you know. I mean,
What Gary had said was outrageous. It didn't fit.
After confessing to the murder, Gary Wilkins initially did not plead guilty to the charges. However, after sufficient evidence was gathered against him, he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was then sentenced to 35 years of imprisonment for 2 terms, with both terms to be served consecutively without any breaks. An irrational decision made by Gary resulted in the tragic loss of an innocent couple's lives. Even though the police had helped the Sorensen family get justice for the elderly couple, Martha and Robert have been deeply missed by every family member since their passing.
To lose 2 people at once and the way, they were taken, it's sad. It's so hard to explain your feelings. It's hard to understand why it happened.
As the family continues to recover from the pain of their loss, we can only hope the couple finds eternal peace.
If my grandparents were across from me right now, I would just tell them that I miss them, and it's a long overdue conversation, and I think we're a few casino visits overdue. That's definitely what we gotta do. Hit some slots up for sure. And I'll see them one day, and hopefully they're hanging in there.